In many parts of Europe and in North America, families used to grow their own flax for household use. They'd cultivate small patches in their gardens or in their fields, and they would process those plants to create linen for clothing, bedding, other textiles. This practice was especially common in rural areas up until the Industrial Revolution. Flax was one of the first crops domesticated by humans, with evidence of its cultivation dating back to around
5000 BCE in the Fertile Crescent.
Ancient Egyptians were particularly fond of linen, using it for everything from clothing to mummy wrappings. There's also emerging evidence that many of the ancient textiles that we have assumed were linen are in fact nettle. Nettle has been a very important bast fiber as well through human history. As someone who really enjoys getting to see the process of how things are made from the very beginning, I have wanted to grow flax in my own yard, just as my ancestors did, for so long. And this year, I finally did it.
Live in the front yard, we have dirt, and Evie's very tired.
I have flax in my pocket. And it's a linen apron. I have flax seeds in my linen apron.
So just like in Minecraft, if you took all the seeds and if you plunked them down right next to each other, is it just going to grow one really big flower? Okay, what's next?
Calendula.
I think I just heard a cicada. Cicada apocalypse. Her excellent farming skills.
It's done.
Are they done yet?
The flax. I am super excited because I'm finally planting flax. Like really prepared grounds. I'm ready.
So, you want to show everybody what the seeds look like?
Oh, yeah. That's flax seeds.
We have 3 beds. What are they going to be utilized for?
Flax, nettle.
So, do you need to poke a hole in the ground for each seed individually and then cover it up and care for it?
People would just walk around with a little bag of flax seeds and just throw them.
I mean, like we could do that in our neighborhood when we take the dog for a walk.
Well,
I'm just saying, like everybody's yard could be flax.
this is stinging nettle. Don't touch it.
So what's stinging nettle used for? Is it a dye plant as well?
It's a dye plant. It's also a fiber plant, edible.
You just told me not to touch it.
Well, if you boil it, it takes the little spines off of it, and then it's a very healthy and nutritious plant. You can have nettle soup, which is a classic way to prepare it because it takes the spines off and makes it safe to eat.
If I see the birds in here, we're gonna have bird soup.
That's it. Planted.
Hi, Fibre friends. I'm hopping in here, unscripted, so to speak, to mention that I, at this moment, feel slightly uncomfortable releasing my video because we recently experienced an absolutely unprecedented hurricane in the United States, Hurricane Helene, and the devastation that Helene has caused is still not fully known, and my heart goes out to everyone who's been affected by that storm. In my video, will talk about a storm that hit the Chicago area where I live. It was also an unprecedented number of tornadoes in my area. But I want to be clear that, of course, the scale and magnitude is not really comparable to what's going on right now. So please consider my reaction to that storm and my thoughts after as a snapshot of a moment last July with the impact of Helene very much going on at the front of sort of public consciousness. I wanted to take this opportunity to mention an organization that is specifically available to people who make their living with crafts as a support for them. It's called the Craft Emergency Relief Fund, It provides craft artists with support and resources for disaster and emergency relief, education programs, and readiness grants to strengthen preparedness, committing to generosity, inclusion, and care. The need right now in the areas of the United States that were devastated by Helene is very great. So if you have resources or the ability to do so, look into what you can do to offer helpful support to those who are recovering from Helene. I didn't want to publish a video talking about a storm in my backyard without acknowledging the magnitude of what's going on right now. So, yeah. Stay safe, everyone.
We had a wild rainstorm last night. The sirens were going off. There was a tornado warning. That's when one gets spotted. We are safe. Nothing happened here, but I was so worried that these would wash out. I can't wait till they get sprouted.
If you notice, you'll see that most of the flax is growing on one side of the raised bed, and the other side is just totally empty and devoid of any foliage. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I have two theories. One, some birds started in on it and then were scared away, but I feel like they would have come back and gotten the rest of the seed if that were the case. I think what actually happened is that huge rainstorm we had at the very beginning after I planted, that rainstorm washed the seeds over to the other side of the raised bed, and that's where it all went, and that's where it all sprouted. Tonight we are supposed to get a storm that's going to have 75-mile-per-hour winds. Bonkers. And I am just like...
The storm system did turn out to be an unprecedented record breaker. There was confirmed in several places that the wind gusts were reaching over 100 miles an hour. There were many trees that were completely toppled. The entire system had a combined 90 tornadoes, which was a record for a continuous outbreak in July. There were even a couple tornadoes that were within Chicago city limits. I don't know if you've seen the Chicago skyline, but we don't want tornadoes there. West of us, there was a dam that failed. There was a lot of flooding. Many people were without power. The pounding rain did do a number on my flax, and if that's the worst that we got, I am satisfied. I was able to go out and help my flax stand back up. It didn't feel bent. You know, when you snap a green branch and you can feel it kind of crease, and you know that, you know, in a few days that end of that on the far side of the crease is going to be brown and wilting. This didn't have any of that kind of a feeling, so I was hopeful that it would recover with a little TLC. So I would go out every day and sit with my flax and tell it was doing a good job and to keep growing and to be big and strong, because one day it's going to be cloth.
It's like a $15 tomato right there. I have tomatoes instead of nettles. The rabbits ate my nettle shoots before they, like, I would see a tiny little shoot and I would be so excited, and then it would be gone. It was the rabbits. They're villainous. Since I didn't have any nettle that was gonna come up, I went and got some tomato plants and a couple lavender plants so I can make a few lavender wands. It's frustrating, but I'm enjoying the tomatoes, so we'll have to figure out a different way to get nettle.
Well, it did stand up again after I had that terrible storm, so that's good. Kind of obsessed with this little bee. The squirrels will not stop trying to bury their walnuts I mean, they are from my walnut tree, but the squirrels are having at it. They won't stop. I'm tired of their nonsense, and I have to keep coming out here to shoo the rabbits away. It's a little bit of a turf war at this point, between me and the backyard wildlife. The bees are welcome. The rabbits are not at this point. And my dog doesn't care. She just looks at the rabbits and then, like, just walks away and does whatever. So she's not even helpful. Hi, my girl. You're such a good girl. When to harvest the flax. I talked about it a little bit on my Instagram, and I got some feedback from people, a couple different opinions, and I also looked up a couple of different books to see what they said about when to harvest.
The two books I've had on this adventure that have been the absolute most useful are this one from my friend Raven, who is on the channel Crowing Hen. This book, absolutely wonderful resource. And also this book, Linen, Hand Spinning and Weaving by Patricia Baines.
She says the flax is ready for harvesting 30 to 35 days after flowering is over. The usual time is just as the stalks are turning yellow and the seed caps are changing from green to brown. The longer the crop is left in the ground, the coarser the fibers will become. The green flax, so called, is when the crop is pulled almost immediately after flowering, with no attempt to save the seed. This is done in order to attain fiber which is soft, supple, and fine.
I am a full 30 days out from the point that it was fully flowering, like everything was actively flowering, and I am starting to see the plants fade a little bit, but the seed pods are not all ripe, and I don't want them to be. The key is that you would probably want to harvest most of it early, but then leave some of it to go fully to seed. Before they're fully ripe, it's called green flax because the seed bolls are still green. And when they are brown and have those seeds in them, you can ripple and get a batch of seeds out of it so that you can have that to plant next year. But it means that your fibers are going to be more coarse.
It's probably an overkill, but it was convenient. What do we have? Well, that's also becoming seed. Interesting. I found seed pods in each of sort of the different phases, and I cut them open so that if I'm trying to determine where the growth is at, then I'll know that this one that still has more green streaks on it doesn't have seeds. It was kind of a milky, kind of like when you break a dandelion. It kind of looked a little like that, but it just a bit, and then that was it. This one has seeds that are immature. They still are stuck in there. This one, well, we're starting to get seeds. And then this one, fully ripe, just crumbled when I picked one that looked at a similar stage. So this is going to be really helpful for me next year when I'm deciding when to harvest my flax.
You have to choose seeds for next year, coarser fibers, softer fibers, no seeds for next year. I am going to use the same supplier, and I am going to buy seeds for next year, and then I will not worry about waiting until I get seeds, and I will go ahead and harvest this so that it can be on the finer, softer side of it. Tomorrow morning, I will come out early before it's too hot and get this harvested.
It says Stooking Flax in Flanders. Look at those fiber friends. Stooking. The goal of this endeavor is to dry the straw by allowing the air to flow around it. If the sheaves are crowded or can't get to the center of the stick, make the center hollow with the first 3 sheaves, making an open area like the poles of a teepee. Take advantage of flax's natural ability to stick together. Alright, next comes this stooking. So we're going to pull it up by the root and tie them together and lean them on each other and leave them out so they can dry.
Get the dirt off the bottom there. This is just the coolest thing. We talk about those moments where in fiber arts, sometimes we can, I don't know, it's like something in our hands just sends this surge of mystery, and it's like you can touch it. It's like it's right there. And it's just the coolest thing. I think I'm gonna cry. This is so weird. Why am I crying over flax? Oh my gosh. I have to cut this part. This is embarrassing.
Flax is always pulled up, never cut. I learned that this is because it can cause damage to the flax fibers. And when you're retting the plants, if the root is still attached, then the water doesn't get up in it from a cut section, so it keeps more of the flax retting at a consistent rate and the fibers as long as possible for spinning.
I think I'm gonna leave a few of these over here. They sprouted a little later and they're a little shorter, which I know that if you're making seed for the next harvest, like, it's important to take the tallest, straightest, strongest, healthiest plants because that's the characteristic you want in your crop next year too. But because these are a little bit shorter, a little runtier, I'm not going to plant that seed next year probably, but I would like to just learn from observing the full cycle of the plant all the way to completely brown. I hope this isn't a situation where I'm harvesting it too early, and at some point in the future when I'm rewatching this video, I'm gonna be like, past Evie, you did it wrong. No, stop. Put them back. Think it'll be okay? Yeah, I hope that's not in my future. I think that's about it. Jillian E. Flax Harvest 2024. It's harvested.
I think this is pretty neat. This one was broken. When I was harvesting it, I pulled this one aside because since it was broken and already kind of dried and laying on the ground there, we can get a little preview and see some of the fibers that are in there. Look at that. There it is. That's where linen comes from. I really understand why drying it completely is important. This isn't as dry as it looks, and it kind of collapses and gets a little bendy, and it doesn't really, it's not brittle. And so it's hard to kind of get this off of there to see the actual flax fibers down underneath, but it is very strong. So there's that.
The stems are gathered into bundles, all facing the same direction, roots placed evenly together. After pulling, the flax is tied into bundles known as sheaves or beets and taken to a field to dry. If you have good weather, you can open up these bundles and lay out the flax. This is known as grassing. If it's wet, or if you have a lot of flax that are all stacked up or stooked around. I'm learning so many new vocabulary words from this. Stooked around a steel tripod, which keeps the flax open in the center. Huh. And since they overlap, the rain runs off it. I guess it would work a little bit like a thatched roof. These stacks were known as huts, or in Northern Ireland, hovels. Hovels. Is that like when you're saying that someone lives in a hovel? It's like stacks of flax all around? I suppose that would be meant to be an insult. Behold, my sheaves are stooked.
I don't know if this is the best place for them, but I like that I can keep an eye on them, at least for now. So they'll be easy enough to move if they need to be moved.
I know a place where the sun shines every day. So come with me, I'll take you there. I'll take you there. Coloring outside the lines. Talk is cheap, but we're wasting time. Running low on the borderlines. Talk is cheap and we're wasting time.